But I would say do not be a traditional HR person. Be a traditional non-HR person that gets ahead, and you will then get ahead as well.
Hello there. This is John Bernatovicz, your host of the HR Like a Boss podcast. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share with a friend. I've embarked on a journey to get to know amazingly awesome HR and business professionals, and I'm trying to understand what it takes to do HR like a boss. On today's show, I'm so excited to be joined by Lou Adler. Lou Adler and his team had reached out to us about being on the HR Like a Boss podcast, and I was so excited to have him on today's show. Lou, welcome to the HR Like a Boss podcast.
Hey, John, thank you for being here, and thank you for taking my invitation or my request for an invitation.
Before we get into the regular questions on the podcast, I'll start with what does that mean to you? What does performance-based hiring mean to you?
Well, the best way to describe it is my first search assignment. And this was in 1978 when I became a recruiter. So obviously many years ago. It was for a plant manager in an automotive manufacturing facility making accessory products for hot rods, which was in Southern California and the Beach Boys. So that was hot then. I knew the president, said he's looking for a plant manager. So he went out and he gave me a job description, 10 years of experience, manufacturing background, automotive background, had to have this, had to be all these attributes, competencies, academics. And I said to the guy, I said, Mike, that's not a job description. That is a person description. A job description doesn't have skills, duties, and competencies. A person does. Let's put the person description in the parking lot and tell me what you want the person to do. He said, that's a good question. No recruiter's ever asked me that. And I was only recruited for 3 days at the time, but it seemed so obvious to me. He said, I got somebody to turn around the manufacturing plant. I said, fine, let's go through the manufacturing plant. Spent an hour walking through it. We found a lot of manufacturing problems. And I said, I'll find somebody who can fix those. And we did find. 3 weeks later, we hired somebody from me who could fix those. Background had some years of experience, didn't have exactly the background, but all of a sudden, when you focus on performance objectives rather than skills, you just open a talent pool to everybody. So now you've got to assess candidates around, have they done work similar to that? Do they see the job you're offering a career move? And if it does, and your salary is competitive, it doesn't have to be the best, but if you have the best career move and a competitive salary, you're actually going to hire good people. But that's really the basis of performance-based hiring. And since 1978, 1,000 situations later or more, I have never used the job description listing skills, duties, and responsibilities. Always say, what does the person need to be successful? And we'll find someone who can do that work.
So how would you describe the purpose of the human resource function within an organization, Lou?
Well, that's kind of a broad question because my focus is on hiring. So I'm going to go back to a client that I had. Again, this is probably in the mid 80s. He was VP HR of a medical manufacturing company in Southern California, Orange County, where I live. And he said to me, the guy was great, the primary purpose of my position is to get great people hired. That is my strategic win for the company. Everything else is secondary or tertiary to that. Compliance is tertiary. Everything is tertiary. It is to get the best people and get my hiring manager, my team, understand that they got to hire great people. It was just a breath of fresh air. I have not heard many HR people believe that to be true. So again, my focus, John, is clearly on the hiring process. It's not on the compliance. Yes, I know you got to do all this stuff, but to me, HR should focus on what do I have to do to raise the talent bar and get great people in here. And that to me is what I would define as the purpose. And yet I don't find a lot of HR people, they might conceptually talk that, but they don't have the, maybe it's the leadership skills to implement that. But to me, that is the difference maker between a great HR person and somebody who's just making sure the company's in compliance.
I want to be cognizant of the people that are listening to the podcast that are in HR and are listening to what you're saying and saying, well, how do I get that diverse level of experience? How can I become better at that role? And so I'll start with the first part, which is how do we suggest leaders and executives to recruit non-HR business professionals into HR? We'll start there. And then after that, I want to talk about, okay, I'm in HR. How do I get that broader, I'll call it business related experience so I can become a better executive and business person? So let's start with recruiting non-HR business pros into the field of HR. What's your thoughts there?
Well, I think they were really the same question. So let's just kind of suggest that, and somebody asked me, how did you get ahead? I mean, they just said, and so I think this now, is this a principle that everyone should follow? I don't know that. But what I did is I volunteered for jobs and for work that I was not qualified for. I took over things. So if I screwed it up, no one would feel bad. There was no risk associated with it. I remember kind of taking a project. It was in, we were manufacturing handheld calculators, and we were going to go head to head. This was many years ago when the first consumer electronics came out. I said, I'll do the whole capacity planning and the whole analysis and put the presentation together to the executive team to see if we should do it. And they said, why are you doing that? I said, because I think it'd be fun, number one. I think intellectually I can do it, but I also knew if I screwed it up, nobody would care because it was way over my head. So then I was in finance and accounting, and then I took, hey, I want to be the director of logistics for that division. Well, you never had that background. I said, I don't care. I'll go to Apex thing, get certified, and I'll take the job. Again, nobody thought I could do it. So there's no risk in taking a job that's above you. Everyone think there is a risk. No, there's no risk. Everyone know you'd screw it up anyway. If you don't screw it up, you're a hero. So as stupid as that sounds, is take on projects that you're not qualified to handle that are a bit of a stretch, 20, 30% stretch, and ask for it. Number one, just asking for it, you get kudos. Hey, this is a good guy. He's really aggressive. And if you screw it up, nobody's going to care because you shouldn't have got it anyway, but you won't screw it up because most of these jobs are common sense. If you're halfway smart, you're willing to work hard, you can deal with people, you can solve problems, you're going to get the thing done. Now, obviously, you can't take a 100% increase, but everybody can take a stretch at 20 to 30%. Now, you got to be willing to work hard and volunteer for that. And I don't think if you're in HR going into non-HR functions, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, you certainly demonstrate, hey, I don't want to be in HR, I want to learn. So you think about the building blocks anybody should have. You have to manage a group. You have to manage a project. You have to understand systems. You have to be cross-functional. You have to get into strategic and product or planning of some type. So you take jobs that give you those kinds of components in building your career ladder. And I think once you start doing that, I say, okay, I'm going to do it. Now I know you can go into HR and non-HR and back and forth, and all of them involve dealing and managing people and probably hiring and identifying people. So to me, you get those experiences. So that's kind of a principle that I think covers both of your questions. I think, if not, and it turns out to be kind of fun if you enjoy work. If you don't want to work hard, well, that's you're out of luck. That ain't going to happen then.
In your mind, what has prevented HR from being able to be more strategic, and what suggestions do you have to make that happen?
Well, that's a great foundational question. And if you go on YouTube and look for a video that I did probably 5 or 6 or 7 years ago with LinkedIn, and it's called Catch 22. And in that video, I describe and I say, I ask people, tell me about all your hiring problems. Not enough people, not diverse enough. Managers aren't involved. We're not hiring, we're not seeing the right kind of people. And there was a host of problems. And this is how the video opens. And I basically say, those are all good problems. I don't say good. Those are all legitimate problems. The reason you have those problems is you got the wrong talent strategy. Your talent strategy assumes you're going to fill jobs with people who are fully qualified. And I'm going to say, and that's a weed out the weak talent strategy. We got these skills, people apply. And if you got abundance of great people applying, that's probably a reasonable strategy called weeding out the weak. But the reality is you screen out a lot of good people that way. A better talent strategy is attract the best, which is a different process, which is fundamentally everything I talk about in performance-based hiring. Hey, we're going to offer great jobs that'll be not just jobs with a better pay package, but a great jobs that offer you a career opportunity, not for just a day, but year 1 and year 2, and hopefully longer than that. But that's an attract in strategy, much more high touch than a weed out the weak strategy, which is a high tech strategy. So if you don't get the talent strategy right, you're never going to win. And I'm going to contend, John, in the last 25 years, people have spent tens of billions of dollars on HR tech, and they haven't gotten any better. Quality of hire hasn't improved. They're still struggling to hire good people. They still spend more money on job postings. The biggest companies made most money, all the people who have job postings. And everyone knows job postings don't work. 1% of the people who apply to a job get a job, and they're not the best people. The best people get jobs because they're referred or they're networked or they're internal promotions. So when you benchmark how do the best people get jobs, you wouldn't do any of this stuff that people pay tens of billions of dollars for. And fundamentally, it's because I got the wrong talent strategy. It's a weed out the weak strategy versus attract the best strategy. And if you build and attract the best strategy, you will attract better people. You'll spend more time with the right people. You'll have higher performance. You'll hire stronger people. You'll have higher job satisfaction, less turnover, less churn, and more performance, and a true competitive advantage. And until HR buys into that thing about strategy, it's not going to get better. They're just going to invest more thing in trying to be more efficient, doing the wrong things. And to me, that's where you have the wrong strategy.
How would you describe someone that does HR like a boss?
It's a good question, but I'd say, so if I was looking at an HR person and interviewing an HR person, I would look for people who've stretched the boundaries of their own work. It could be that they proactively helped other people as a peer, and that's a clear sign of someone who is a good manager. They go out of their way to help someone who they don't need to help get better. They become a subject matter expert in a certain field, and they can train a group of people. They can volunteer for projects that would stretch them. And when you think about project management, understanding business systems, becoming cross-functional. So if I was going to say being HR like a boss, it would be, hey, think like a CEO. It's your own P&L, but it's you yourself. Become a better person and just understand, what does it take? And if I was going to give you advice to read a book, it would be Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Own those 7 habits. I mean, you just get that. That will get you in the game right away. I mean, they're different than what I just said, but there's a big overlap there, and you'd see every one of them in the thing is there. But when I interview candidates, I'm looking for those 7 habits of highly effective people, and they're pretty much tied to that the trend that I've seen go through. But I would say, do not be a traditional HR person. Be a traditional non-HR person that gets ahead, and you will then get ahead as well.
Lou, thank you so much for being on the show.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you for that great summary. Look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Thank you for checking out the HR Like a Boss podcast. If it resonates with you, please consider leaving a rating and review. And better yet, subscribe and share with a friend. Until next time, let's continue to aspire to do amazingly awesome HR.